that we have a quality guy in the wings if we need to go to him.
All right, the other big question was offensive line. Not so much do you have the guys, but who are the guys? I know you guys have made a real emphasis, I think the last 2 years, on going after offensive linemen. You've got a lot of freshmen, redshirt freshmen, and sophomores. You settled on your top 5 or 6 about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. Do you feel good about that group up front right now?
We do. It's there's some youth in there. Both guards are going to be freshmen. Johnny Maye, when he's Braden Daniels.
He's a true freshman.
He's a true freshman. Braden's a redshirt freshman. Paul Tawala will play some guard as well. And then the tackles in the center are much more established. Darren Paulo on the left, Nick Ford on the right, and then Orlando Umon in the middle. So we've got, but like you said, the vast majority of the scholarship players on the offensive line are freshmen and sophomores, and there's some talented kids in that group. And I think this group in a year or two could be outstanding.
The group that you used to play with, the linebacking core. I know you love your top 2 guys. Devin Lloyd was maybe your most improved player through spring and into fall camp. You got Francis Bernard, who's been a player in this series and with this team. But Mandy Bowen's departure before camp thinned you out just a little bit. How do you feel about the linebacking spot heading into the season?
They've come around, and you mentioned the 2 top guys there with Devin and Francis in our 4-2 package, the nickel package, which is what we're in probably 70% of the time. Sione Lund has had a very good fall camp. He's made a lot of progress. Trenton Carlson was a great pickup for us. He was a late pickup, but has proven to be very valuable because he's in the top 4. Andrew Mataafa is another guy that's still trying to work his way into the travel squad in the top 6, as well as Moroni Anae. And then after that, it's about 3 or 4 guys that are kind of jockeying for position.
All right, we'll take our first time out here on the Coaches Show, which is presented by Smith's tonight. Saturdays are better. I don't know if you know this, but Saturdays are better with a crisp Bud Light at your tailgate. Keep it crisp. Proud sponsor of the Utah Utes. Please drink responsible. That's Bud Light. When we come back, it's the BYU Cougars. For the first time ever in the first game of the season, we'll talk to Kyle a little bit about the team that he saw just 3 games ago, right over at Rice-Eccles Stadium. All that as the Coaches Show continues right here on a Tuesday night. This is Utah football from Learfield, IMG College.
So are we streaming?
College football kickoffs finally here. Gear up for the Utes and the team down south. And be sure to celebrate the 15th annual College Colors Day on August 30th. And you'll be celebrating a Utah win, hopefully, with College Color Days. Sport your new season gear and sport that pride on social media using the hashtag College Colors Day. Visit collegecolorsday.com to check out the great fan stories. That's College Colors Day on August 30th. I'm Bill Riley. Kyle Whittingham's with me. We're 2 days away. 2 days and about an hour and a half away from kickoff. Well, 2 days and 2 hours away.
50 hours, Bill.
Is it 50 hours?
50 hours.
50 hours. We're both staring up at the clock here. 50 hours away from Utah and BYU down in Provo. 100th meeting in this series, but the first time it's ever been in the first game. I know you've been asked this a bunch, but we've got some new listeners here tonight. You know, forever it was the last game, and then it's been the second or third game since you guys joined the Pac-12. It went back to the last game last year. It had a weird vibe about it, but I'm just curious, do you like it being in the first game?
I'll tell you in a few days. You know, it's made really no difference in our preparation, and I don't mean that to downplay the game. It's just we have a way to prepare for games and a model that we follow that we think is pretty good, and we don't alter it regardless of who we're playing. But there certainly has been a little more emotion, a little more intensity in the practices.
Well, there's no doubt about that. And you know, for folks that wonder about, you know, first games, you've played some 1AA teams in first games. I don't think that anybody's going to be overlooking this game. Not that you ever overlook the first game, but when it's a rivalry game, there's a little extra sauce with it, isn't it?
Without a doubt, yeah. It gets your attention, gets the players' attention, and you know, but no matter who you open up with, you know, you got to be ready, whether it's Michigan or the rivalry game or whoever. And so, like I said, we go through our same structure of practices and tune up just the same way.
It was only 3 games ago you played these guys. That's a weird
that's
part
the weirdest thing about it.
The weird part of it. And to be very honest, for both you and Kalani's guys down south, the rosters haven't changed a great deal. Yours hasn't. Theirs hasn't. In fact, both of you have some players that didn't play in that game. You have Tyler and Zach who didn't get to play.
Right.
They've got a middle linebacker by the name of Zane Anderson who didn't get to play in that game. He'll get to play in this game as well. But when you went back, and I'm sure you've watched it about 100 times, what stood out about that game to you, aside from the fact you were down 20 late in the third?
Yeah, slow start was the worst part of the game. Offensively, we sputtered the whole first half. Defensively, we did a pretty good job. I think the biggest flaw we had on defense was letting the quarterback out and scramble around and make plays with his legs. You know, he did a lot of damage running the football. You know, the throwing numbers were okay. You know, there was nothing really disappointing about that. I thought we played the pass decently. Tight end was a factor. Didn't do a good enough job on the tight end. But then offensively, we caught fire in that second half, and thankfully so, or we would have, you know, wouldn't have had a chance to win the game. But the offense came to life, and defense knuckled down and got the pick 6 early in the second half, and then they answered to go back up 20, and then from there it was all us. From the end of the third quarter on, it was all Utes.
Yeah, you began to find a rhythm on offense in your defense, I think, and I talked to Bradley and I about this the other day. He said we had a lot of assignment errors, and I think some of that was you talked about a quarterback getting out and getting loose just a little bit. But I think once you guys locked that part in, the offense found a rhythm. It was a different game.
It was, and Jason Shelley played an outstanding second half. Armand Shine did some really good things. Offensive line took over and had just enough in the tank to get it done. But you're right. It just seems like we just played them. I mean, it was like, and because we did, it was 3 days ago, or 3 games ago. But it was not ideal. You know, when you look at the schedule at the beginning of last season, saying, hey, if we accomplish what we want in the regular season and we make it to that championship game, we got to play the rivalry game in between that. You know, that was less than ideal, but you don't complain. You just play them as they unfold. But I think the opener is in a better spot, the game in a better spot than the last game of the year. I think that's without a doubt.
No, I think I would agree with that, too. And as you look at this game, and I asked you about this the other day, and I've asked some of the players, and you said, hey, if I had the answer, I'd be the wizard of college football. But, you know, quick starts. Those aren't easy in any game, rivalry game sometimes. And now you're putting the rivalry game in the first game of the year on the road. But the importance in a game like this, an opener plus a big game, of getting off to a good start. I think you mentioned last year your defense wasn't bad, and then you muffed that punt early, and it gave them second life. So what are some of the things you try to do to ensure a good start?
Well, not turn the ball over
and
early, and that's, you don't want to turn it over ever, but early really is a momentum swing. And when we got that 3 and out on defense, and then the ball ricochets off our leg on the punt, that was a definite downer, because we were going to have good field position with the offense, and you know, the whole complexion of the game may have changed right there. I mean, if we possess the ball and take it down and score, then who knows what happens. But that's a lot of what ifs. But the key is, in an opener, play as clean as you can. I mean, we talked about Miami and Florida playing with a lot of penalties and some sloppy play. And you just got to eliminate the chaos, the delay of games, the false starts, those administrative things that just are drive killers, and try to play as clean as you can, and then with great effort, because the effort will cover up a lot of mistakes.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about BYU with here in a few minutes on the program. Coming up next, one of your two senior captains is going to join us. Bradley Anae is going to come in. Tyler Huntley's also along for the ride here tonight. Bradley's had a terrific career for you, and he's a guy who's got state ties. Dad played, uncle was a coach. You know them both very, very well. He's an island kid, and he's a kid that's always had a terrific motor, Kyle. But you've really seen him hone his craft as a defensive end the last couple of years, haven't you?
Without a doubt, he's worked so hard. I mean, he's one of the hardest workers in the program, and he cares tremendously about his performance, and he wants to play a long time in this game, and he's got the tools to do it. And he's a guy that his motor never stops. And you're right, as a freshman, he had a high motor when he got here, but he was a little bit undisciplined and running around, not sure exactly what he was doing all the time. But now he's got all his assignments down. He's got his body in perfect shape. I mean, we run gassers out there, and we separate the groups into the skill, the big skill, and the giants. And when he runs his gassers, he's running as fast as the skill guys are. I mean, he's incredible as far as that goes.
He's one of the last guys on the field at every practice, too. We'll talk to Bradley Anae, who may or may not even be the best athlete in his own family. We'll talk to him about that coming up in just a few. By the way, throughout the year, we don't have it today because we haven't played a game yet, but we'll have our Team Player of the Week every week, brought to you by University of Utah Health. 16 neighborhood health centers and a game plan for your family's health. Visit them online at uvuhealth.org. Quick time out here at the Kyle Whittingham Coaches Show presented by Smith's. When we come back, Bradley and I will join us from here in the coach's office on campus at the Eccles football facility and right here from Learfield, IMG College. Game brought to you by Subway. Footlong of the day at Subway restaurants. Get chips, 2 cookies, and a 20-ounce drink for free with the Footlong of the day. We're live in Kyle Whittingham's office this year. Can you believe it? Coach let us set up in here. We're here presented by Smith's, and we're here joined by Utah defensive end Bradley and Anae here on the show. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. Are you ready for the season? We're 2 days away. Coach and I were just talking. We're just inside of 50 hours.
Oh, yeah. We're ready to go. It's lock-in mode.
How long's this offseason been for you? You knew you were coming back. You made the decision to come back, so you knew what was in store, and you knew what your quote-unquote unfinished business was. So how's the offseason gone for you?
Offseason has been great. It just flies by. You know, it feels like yesterday that we just finished with last season, but it's another year and it's another shot.
So it is another shot, and you've got goals, and those goals begin with BYU.
Yep.
It was a game that you guys had get away from you early last year, and you were down by 20, not once but twice in the third quarter, Bradley. What do you remember most from that game? And I know you've watched it a bunch, and you and I talked about it the other day, but when you think about that game last November over at Rice Eccles, what stands out to you?
Just the little errors that caused those plays to be made to, you know, let them have the opportunity to get up 20 zip. And it was just a matter of fixing those little things and coming together more as a defense as far as doing your 111 on the field. And it was a minor change to coming in. It wasn't drastic, you know. We sat back and we knew what we had to do.
You're one of the guys in this program that's played again. You've never lost to them. You're 3-0, I think, 3-0 against BYU. You've got family ties. Your sister's in school down there. She's an athlete down at BYU. Your uncle was a coach down there. You've got a lot of ties. So this is one of the things that make the Utah-BYU rivalry so unique, the familial ties.
Yep.
But when I mention the rivalry game, what does it mean to you?
That's a great question. Well, just for me being a Ute, and I'll always be a Utah man, it just means, you know, we don't lose to those guys, and that's it. That's period. As long as you're here, as long as you're a senior, you want to have a clean slate, not having ever lost to those guys down south.
Julian told me, one of your teammates, Julian Blackman, said, hey, this is a big game, but this is not our biggest game. But for them, it's their Super Bowl. This is the one they circle on the calendar. They were talking about it earlier this summer. You guys heard that chatter too. What do you make of that, and does that impact how you guys prepare it all, or do you go in there like it's a business trip?
A little bit of both. For them, they could bring everything into this game and not care about the rest of the season. For us, we have things. We have goals, and we've always had those goals. But for us, it's a little bit of both. You know, it's business and it's personal. You know, we go in there, and especially Scally has harped on this a lot. Find a way to make it, you know, personal to yourself. And it's not just another game for us. It's a game where we're never going to lose to those guys, and that's it. And where there's, you know, we studied not only the football part of who we're lining up against, but who they are, who, you know, they're where they went to high school, you know, what's their everything, every little thing, you know. Scally has told us to get to know, and so that we can make it personal.
So you got to play against Zach Wilson a year ago.
Yep.
Good young quarterback a year ago. You guys got after him a little bit. Let him kind of get away just a little bit. Give me your scouting report and what your approach is this time around, having seen him once and watched some tape on him now.
Yeah.
How's your approach to Zach Wilson?
Well, our approach as far as from the defensive end standpoint, we've cleaned up a lot on our pass rush and has just to be more of a disciplined rusher, not getting past the level of quarterback and whatnot, and knowing really what his tendencies are, and what he likes to do. You know, if he's rolling out to the right, he's looking to throw. But if he rolls out to left, my side, the right side, he's looking to run and put his head down and go. And so just little things like that. We've worked a lot, pass rush this off season. That's probably, 90% of what we did this off season. So, come Thursday, we're just gonna, go through what we've been doing, and hopefully get this guy and sack him a bunch and rough him up, and just have fun.
All right, before I let you go, one of the questions heading into fall camp was about the offensive line for Utah. Just some new faces. I think everybody has assumed there's talent on that line, but maybe not as experienced. You've gotten to go against these guys every day in practice, and we always hear how the defensive line makes these guys better. Well, you get to face all kinds of offensive lines.
Mm-hmm.
What have you made from what you've seen, and how ready are these guys to go on Thursday night?
Well, the Captain Darren Paulo, the best offensive the player on the offensive line. So he's our left tackle, our blind side. The right side, Nick Ford is a solid dude. Has been doing some great stuff. But overall, I feel like the offensive line has adapted to our scheme as offense, and has taken that, and the scheme really complements the offensive line and how their physicality and how they are physical coming off the ball. The whole scheme in itself complements the players, especially the offensive linemen. How we will be a heavy team in the run and throw it downfield and whatnot. But it really goes hand in hand, and they do complement each other.
You're looking forward to Thursday night?
Couldn't be more excited.
Every time I've asked him that in the last week, he's just gotten a big smile on his face. Have a good time.
All right, thank you.
I'll see you, Bradley. Bradley and I with us here on the Coaches Show tonight. By the way, all of our touchdowns this year are brought to you by Pepsi. Grab some friends and grab a Pepsi and get into the game. Pepsi's a proud partner of Utah Athletics. Quick timeout. We go from the defense to the offense. Tyler Huntley joins us next on the Coaches Show from Learfield IMG College. presented by Smith's Low Prices and Market Fresh. Listen in to the college football season. That would be where we're at right now. Every Tuesday night from 6 until 7 o'clock, we broadcast it live on our flagship radio home, ESPN 700. And, of course, we stream it live on Twitch and Utah Athletics YouTube channel. So I got a big production here. We're live from Coach Witt's office. He'll be back with us here for the final two segments of the show tonight. But we go from a defensive captain to an offensive captain. Joining us on the program tonight, senior quarterback Tyler Huntley, who joins us 2 days out. We are 49 hours and about 40 minutes. Tyler, you ready to go?
Yes, sir.
I bet you are. You didn't get to play in the game last year. You were hurt at the time. You played against him 2 years ago, had a really good game down in Provo. How tough was that for you and for Zach to stand on the sideline for that last month of the year, knowing how good a season it was, and how much has that motivated you through the offseason?
It was really tough that we didn't get to finish the year what we started, and it's always tough just watching your team play out there playing when you know you should be out there playing.
A lot of people have asked me this offseason, they're like, well, you're around the team a lot. What are you expecting for Tyler Huntley? I said, the guy I'm expecting is the guy that I saw in October of last year. It looked like everything clicked for you last year in October, beginning with that Stanford game all the way through the month. You were playing on as high a level as anybody, probably not named Tua or Trevor last year. You were playing that well, and the offense was clicking. What about you? What are your expectations for your game this year?
I just want to just lead this team to a lot of wins, just continue to be the quarterback they expect to see.
One of the questions, or one of the storylines this offseason was hiring Andy Ludwig. Coach Ludd came in. He and Kyle Whittingham worked together for the first 4 years here when Kyle was head coach, and Coach Ludd's been around just a little bit, but that's a change for you. That's probably the biggest change for you as much as anybody. How did you two get together for the first time? What were your early meetings like, and do you feel like 9 months in that you're on the same page?
The first meeting, he called me in on a Sunday. He explained to me what his expectations for the offense was, how he was going to go about inputting the offense, and what he expected out of me being a senior quarterback. He wanted me to be able to lead this offense and be comfortable leading it. So we went about that, and then we just been conversating on how we're going to go about our business.
Is it a little bit of a collaboration, too? Because you know these guys. These guys have been your teammates for the last 3 years. Now 4. He's the new guy here. Did he lean on you a little bit, too?
Yeah, he asked me about schemes that we ran in the past, how we ran it, and he tried to use our strengths and put it in his offense. And his offense is all about the players. Players make plays, so he made the offense about us.
It's got to be nice for you as a quarterback to know that you've got a little input. He may be calling the plays, but it's nice to know that he wants to know what you want and what works best for you and what you're comfortable running, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'd say it is. So who's worked hard with you this offseason? Give me a couple of names of guys that have really busted there. I know everybody's worked hard, but give me a couple of guys who you've really seen grow from last year to this year.
I'll say Damari Simpkins, first of all, Damari Simpkins, because he'll call me sometimes and we'll be like, we're going to the gym and we'll go in there, throw, lift a couple weights, everything like that. And then Nano, Orlando,
yeah,
he's a great center, and he's gonna be leading that offensive line of. He's a beast down there.
He played a little bit of center last year. Go back in time. Did you take any snaps in games from him last year? Did you guys cross paths a little bit? Because I know Lowe was hurt a little bit, so he played, and I couldn't remember the timeline. That's really the key as much as anything. How do you feel about doing some stuff under center again?
I feel very comfortable. Just seeing like NFL quarterbacks being under center, that makes me feel very confident in being under center, just knowing that it's not something that somebody making up. You know what I'm saying? It's part of football, and I adjusted to it well.
I've asked this question to you at practice and some of your teammates too. Avoiding a slow start, whether it's in an opener, in a rivalry game. You guys got off to a slow start against BYU. The last couple of openers have been slow starts too. I'd be curious, from a quarterbacking standpoint, what are you going to try to do on Thursday night to avoid the slow start, to get that offense rolling early?
just get first downs and make plays when they're presented to us, Instead of like making the early mistakes, we just gotta make sure we polish in the beginning and come out firing.
Does it help you that you've played in that stadium before? That you had a good game 2 years ago. I think people forgot you threw for 300 yards in that game a couple of years ago down there. Does that help you from just a comfortability, having played and won in that building before?
Every game I look at it the same, home, away, you still got to play football. So I don't look at it no different than I'm just ready to play.
Aside from winning games, what's Tyler Huntley want to do this year?
Stay healthy.
Stay healthy. You feel like you're in a good spot to do it. You look bigger.
Yes, sir.
I know everybody's told you that this fall, but you do. You look noticeably big. Do you feel comfortable at your weight?
Yes, sir.
That's the key thing because you got to be comfortable at that weight to do it, don't you?
Got to.
Hey, stay healthy. Win some games. I'll see you Thursday.
Well,
show tonight. Quick timeout. We'll come back on the other side. Kyle and I will talk a little bit more about BYU straight ahead. It is the Kyle Whittingham Coaches Show presented by Smith's right here from Learfield IMG College. Building here on campus at the University of Utah in the office of the head coach, Kyle Whittingham. It's the Smith's Kyle Whittingham Coaches Show. I'm Bill Riley. Kyle with me here tonight. First game of the season coming up on Thursday night. It's an away game, but it's a short trip for the away game. It's not even a flight. I don't think you're flying, are you?
No, we won't fly.
No, they're not flying for this.
We got the buses rolling.
Not into Provo International this time around. They'll be down there to play the BYU Cougars, first game of the season. We talked earlier about this. You played them at the end of last year, so you saw him. Not a lot of the personnel's changed. They've got a couple of new running backs, but talk to me a little bit about what you saw out of the true freshman, Zach Wilson. I know you got to see him in football camp over the years coming up here, but he had a really good end of his freshman year, and now you'll get to see him now a little bit older, a little bit more mature.
Yeah, he was. He did a great job as a starter when they put him in, and he got his opportunity, made the most of it. And, he was lights out in that bowl game. I mean, he was perfect, I guess you could say. I mean, he didn't no incompletions. And had obviously the shoulder surgery in the off season, so he appears to be recovered from that if you believe what you read. So, he's going to be a sophomore now and definitely their guy. I mean, last year it was, he wasn't the guy coming into the season, worked his way into that spot, but he is without question the guy, and he's the guy that makes that offense go.
And taking him out of the equation because the quarterback's always an important guy, what's the strength of their offense as you guys have studied them?
Probably their offensive line.
You think so?
They got some big kids up front. They play well together. And it's essentially the same group from last year, minus a guy, but it's a group that held up very well. And they're still, I don't think there's a senior in the crew. They're still underclassmen, but that would be, in my estimation, of course, the tight end is a very good football player.
Yeah, Matt Bushman is that tight end. Moroni Pututau will be also back this year for them. And then they've got some receivers. They had a bunch of receivers. They didn't necessarily have an A guy last year, but they've got a little bit of speed on the outside, too, that can threaten you down the field, right?
Yeah, they got a good core of receivers and some size in that group as well. And the Shumway kid's got some good size. And so we're going to have to play well. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
Other side of the football, defensively, they continue to crank out Kafusis down there. You guys had your share up here. They've had their share down there. Isaiah Kafusi had a good game against you last year before he got hurt. You didn't get to see Zane Anderson. If you evaluate their team defensively, Kyle, is there strength in the linebacking core? Is it in their front four? Where do you see them as being strong?
Probably in the front seven, as a whole. And, in the secondary, they play very, keep things in front of you. They're not going to give up the big play. They're very determined to do that and make sure they keep things in front. But the key to making that defense go is take away the run, just like most all defenses try to do, and force them into third and longs, and then play pass coverage.
When you guys flipped the script last year, late in the third quarter, what kind of what started to click for you guys? What allowed you to flip that script on both sides of the football?
Well, I think Armand Shine getting going in the run game was probably the key. Jason Shelley, the RPOs started to crank up in that second half. Made some plays on the outside. Seems like I think the tight ends made a play or two, but really it was possessing the football first and foremost, and then getting that run game in gear, and that opens up everything else. You and
I were talking about quick starts earlier. Andy's going to be coordinating in this game, and he did it 4 times before, and he's back here. Does familiarity with a series or an opponent, even if it's 10 years removed, does it help him at all? And is there any advantage for that for him?
I don't think so.
Or has he been gone long enough that there's no real advantage?
Yeah, I would say the latter. There's no real advantage. It's been 10, 11 years since he was involved in that game, and I think that really there's no bearing on what happened prior to what's going to happen this year.
So there's probably no real advantage for Kalani and Eliso
I don't think so.
Look at Andy Lendig, because they'd be looking at Vanderbilt and Wisconsin and Cal, not so much what you guys have.
Yeah, I think that's a wash, the coaching situation with Coach Roderick down there and Kalani and Tiwayaki, guys that have been on our staff. There's been enough turnover, and it's a whole different group of players here than when they were here, and schemes have changed, and so I think that's a non-factor in the game.
All right, let's take our final time out here on the Kyle Whittingham Coaches Show presented by Smith's. We'll get a couple of game keys, and I'm not going to let him say score more points than the other team or win the turnover.
How about turnover margin? I can't say that either?
That's the given. We'll talk about that straight ahead right here on the Kyle Whittingham Show from Learfield IMG College. Final segment on the Coaches Show tonight, which is always presented by Smith's. We're here every Tuesday night, whether it's a Thursday game, a Friday game, or a Saturday game. We only have one Thursday, one Friday, and the rest are Saturday games this year. The Pac-12 opener is on a Friday night. That's against USC. Next couple of weeks after this game are earlier games. Kyle and I will talk about that coming up next week. Before we get out of here tonight, you probably have, from the outside at least, I know you guys always have high expectations inside this building, but from the outside, probably higher expectations on this program than you've ever had since you've been the head coach. People ranking you guys in the top 15, top 10, picking you to win the conference this year, which is nice. And, some people like old Lee Corso even say, hey, maybe even a playoff. And I know that doesn't bother you right now, but what does it mean when there's that kind of chatter about your program, Kyle?
Well, I think our brand is getting stronger out there, and that's a big positive, not only just for recognizing the guys in the program, but for recruiting. When recruits hear that, I mean, they're out there watching these game day shows and so forth, and they see Utah's name being thrown around with the rest of the heavyweights, and that's a positive. But inside the program, we're only accountable to ourselves. We're not accountable to whatever expectations are outside the program, and our expectation is very simple right now: is to go 1-0 this week. That's as simple as it gets, and I think our guys have done a really good job, unless I'm missing my guess, of blocking all that out and just focusing on what we got right in front of us and taking care of business. Their work ethic speaks to that.
So you haven't sensed any heads getting bigger than their helmets or anything
Not at
like
all.
that?
Not at all. And their work ethic, the way they focus and lock in at practice, hold each other accountable at practice, it's as good as it's ever been.
All right, before I let you go, we do this every week. Give me a couple of game keys specific to BYU this week, knowing it's an opener. You haven't played before. I know you always want to win the turnover battle and the battle on the scoreboard, but give me a couple of matchups or areas where you feel like you really need to win.
Well, first of all, we want to play as clean as we can and avoid the administrative penalties, like I mentioned earlier in the show. Get the ball snapped on time, don't false start, don't jump off sides. Just play clean. That's and intelligent. That's obviously a key. I think maybe the biggest matchup and the key matchup in the entire football game is our O-line versus their D-line. I think that's going to be, if we can control the line of scrimmage, I think that's going to be a huge factor, because I'm very confident in our defensive line doing their part and playing the run tough and that type of thing on defense. But our offensive line has got to come to play and be physical and get after it.
How do you feel about your special teams? We didn't talk much about that today.
Yeah, Ben Lennon's done a great job in practice punting. My guess is he'll do just fine in the game. He's an older kid. He's a 24-year-old freshman, so he's not an 18-year-old kid coming in here with a deer in the headlights look. He's got a lot of poise to him. And then Andy Stroud and Jaden Redding, if we get to that point, are ready to go place kicking.
And Britton Covey's going to be
Britton Covey's our return guy. Yeah, kickoff and punt. He's the guy, as well as Damari Simpkins will be back there as well.
On the very rare occasion there's actually a kick return, right?
Yeah, that doesn't happen very often. I think we averaged 1.4 last year a game kick return, and I think it was about 1.2 against us. So that's a dinosaur, the kickoff return game and the kickoff coverage game.
Well, that's going to do it for our first Kyle Whittingham Coaches Show presented by Smith's here at the Eccles Football Building. Just a reminder for you, coming up on Thursday night, we'll be on the air at 6 o'clock from Lavelle Edwards Stadium. Myself, Scott Mitchell, and Tom Hackett. We'll kick it off a little after 8 o'clock as the Utes will take on the BYU Cougars for the first time ever in the first game of the season. Our executive producers tonight on the Ute Sports Radio Network, Steve Borland and Julie Johnson. Our studio engineer, J.P. Chunga. Thanks to Lauren Mason, Porter Larson, and the entire crew here. For Kyle Whittingham, I'm Bill Riley. We'll talk to you Thursday night from Provo. This is Utah football from Learfield, IMG College. Good night.